are never gonna buy your bullshit. They're gonna see somebody just pretending to care.
Like you can do any better.
She should have been back by now.
What's up?
Can you please do something? Can you please help? She's not just gone.
Oh my god, there's so much blood!
Heaven has another angel.
Don't walk into the light!
Come down from heaven and save her.
Isn't ready for you!
God. Oh God, she was so beautiful in life.
Over Your Dead Body is a brand new comedy film that hit theaters this past weekend. The film is directed by Jorma Taccone, and honestly, walking into this film, I expected it to be funny, but I didn't expect it to be hilarious. Because let's be honest, comedy films in the 2020s, they just don't hit like the early 2000s comedies. And yes, those comedies from the early 2000s would really go for it, whereas comedies today seem to be more pulled back, maybe lean into other aspects. So I truly expected this film to lean more into the dramatic side of the story, more into the thriller aspect of this story, but I'm very happy to let you guys know that this film very much so leans into the comedy, and at least for me, it very much so worked. So let's do the review for Over Your Dead Body.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
So this is typically where I would tell you guys who stars in the film, and then I would jump into the synopsis of this movie, and I am going to get into all of that here in a second. But before I do that, I will say that I will try to keep the synopsis of this movie as spoiler-free as possible. That's something I try to do in all of my reviews, unless I specifically title it spoiler review. I try to keep my reviews, my personal thoughts, give you guys a little bit of depth to the synopsis, but I never try to go too far. I definitely never try to spoil anything. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because the other day I did a review for the movie Hokum. I absolutely loved watching that movie, loved talking about it with you guys on camera, and so many people showed up to that review. In fact, if you found my channel because of that review and you subscribed, well, thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. I'm looking forward to talking more movies with all of you in the future. But somebody mentioned that I spoiled too much when I gave my thoughts on that movie, and if I did, I am really sorry about that. Again, I try to keep these reviews as spoiler-free as possible, and when I get into a synopsis of the movie, it would be super easy for me to just read whatever IMDb says about the film online, but that's not how I like to do things. I like to tell you guys about the movie without spoiling too much. So with that said, before doing this review, I did rewatch the trailer to just make sure that I wasn't spoiling anything that the trailers left out, and so I'm going to get into the synopsis, and I'm going to talk about some of the elements in the trailer. And so if you're someone that thinks even the trailer can be a spoiler for the movie, well, then you might want to wait on the rest of this review, come back later after you've seen the film. You've been given full warning at this point. So with all of that said, let's get into the synopsis of this film. Over Your Dead Body stars Jason Segel as a character named Dan, and Dan is married to a character named Lisa, and Lisa is played by Samara Weaving. And in this film, you find out that Dan is a film director. Well, he directed one movie, and now he's just been sort of regulated to directing commercials. And while he tries to take his work serious, you can see that Dan is in a bit of a slump in his life. You also find out that Lisa is an aspiring actress. She's been in a few things. She's also in a bit of a slump in her life. And then you find out that their marriage is at an all-time low. And I mean the lowest of lows, because these two, they're past just leaving each other. No, these two are planning on an intricate way to kill each other at a romantic getaway that they're both about to take. And that's where this movie opens, with the two of them going up to this cabin to have a nice getaway weekend. Well, at least that's what all their friends and family think. But really, they're both planning on killing the other one while they're up at this cabin, and then collecting insurance money and moving on with their lives. And just when they're about to make these plans happen, well, that is when an unexpected visitor shows up, played by Timothy Olyphant, and I'll leave the specifics to why Timothy Olyphant's character is there along with some other people. And when these visitors get to this cabin, well, it throws a monkey wrench in the already deadly plans, and then becomes an even more deadly game for all of the characters involved. And that's the best synopsis that I can give you for Over Your Dead Body. If that sounds like a fun time at the theater, well, then you should go see this on the biggest screen possible. And I would completely understand if after hearing what I said, you go, well, that doesn't sound funny at all. It doesn't sound funny, and they're able to infuse so much comedy into this movie. We'll get to my positives here in a second. But before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button. Check out all the different content that I have. Whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos, I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for Over Your Dead Body.
To keep things fresh. That is honestly so fucked up.
My first positive for this movie is that they never compromised the fresh and unique story that was being told for the comedy aspect, and they never compromised the comedy aspect for the story. And what I mean by that is that the comedy never felt like it got into slapstick humor, which would then compromise the seriousness of the story that was being told, but the comedy never outweighed the seriousness of the story either. I could laugh at a very serious situation, someone getting their head absolutely blown off, but the way it was done was absolutely hilarious, or at least it was to me and the 6 other people that were in my theater, because we all were having a great time with this film, and it's one that I wish I could have experienced with an even bigger audience, which is not something I'm going to say very often, because usually packed out theaters are the worst experiences, but I feel like with this kind of a movie, with this kind of comedy, it could have really relied on a bigger audience. But that, of course, is aside from this. I just loved the fact that they never compromised one of those big portions of this film for the other. My next positive is the pace of this film. Now, it does start a bit slow in the first act. They're getting all of their pieces put together and making sure everything is in the right place for the next 2 acts, but I kind of look at it like a roller coaster. You start to go up that roller coaster, you're going slowly, you get to the top, and then the next 2 acts, it's just a straight shot down, and it is just twist and turn that you don't see coming over and over again. And to build onto this positive, I love the way the story was told. It was told in a couple of different ways from different perspectives. Not necessarily perspectives where you have to watch the same scenes over and over again, but you just get different viewpoints of the different characters in this movie, and the way they tell it also makes you realize that every little detail that's being done in that first act that's going to matter later on down the line. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean a knife missing from a knife block, that'll be explained later. A mower sitting in the yard, a rake sitting in the yard that fell off of a roof, a pot getting thrown out of a window, or even a can getting put on a shelf in an attic will all come into play towards the third act of this film. And so I just love how they make you, the viewer, pay attention during that slow building first act, only to hit you with twist and turn and twist and turn and constantly say, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when this happened? Because all of it serves a purpose to the plot of this movie. My next positive is one that probably won't be too much of a surprise. Jason Segel was great at the comedy aspect of this film. Jason Segel, of course, was in How I Met Your Mother. He's a great actor, so him as this guy trying to kill his wife, coming off as absolutely hilarious, isn't very surprising, but I do have to make it a positive. Samara Weaving also does a great job in this film bringing in the emotional side of this story. I guess they both sort of swap over either the emotional or funny parts of this movie, but if I had to give one category to each person, I would say Jason Segel kills it with the comedy. Samara Weaving really kills it with the emotional aspect of this film, and blended together made me really appreciate this low point in their marriage. And while I would never personally do something like this myself, the whole idea of this movie is these people are at the end of their rope. They don't know what else to do. And so they're like, you know what? There's a huge insurance policy on this person. Let's just kill him. And so that's their plan going into this movie. And you really buy into their relationship, or their broken down relationship, throughout this movie. And it's done because both of these two act their asses off. And Timothy Olyphant is a bit of a wild card in this movie, but he also can bring in the emotions. He can bring in the laughs. Like whatever you need him to do, he can just do. And I feel like all 3 of them do such a great job throughout this movie. The supporting cast was great too. Like I did not have an issue with any of the characters in this film, and I didn't have an issue with any of the acting within this film. It was done really well. And my final positive in this movie is some pretty great action scenes that we get along the way. Yes, this movie is first and foremost a comedy. Yes, I feel like there's more of a thriller aspect than there is an action aspect, but you get a couple of really great action scenes in this movie, whether it's between Jason Segel and Samara Weaving, the 2 of them versus Timothy Olyphant and the people that he's with, or just a mixture of any of those characters. You get a couple of really fun action scenes, and some of them are pretty bloody. Some of them are pretty messed messed up. And so I enjoyed all of those different action scenes that we get and the little bit of gore that was infused into this film as well. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to get over to my negatives. And after one viewing, I really only have one negative for this film. I really enjoyed myself with this movie, but my negative is in the closing moments of this film. There's a moment, and I'm not spoiling things here, with some characters on a dock, and I feel like they should have ended it with those characters on that dock, but instead they keep going. They go from this very emotional moment to, oh, let's make the viewer laugh a couple more times. And I felt like at that point, while all of the other comedy in the movie had worked for me, I felt like they were reaching at that point. I felt like at that point, they should have pumped the brakes. They should have ended it on a more emotional note. They shouldn't have gone into more comedy, because that comedy didn't really work for me. So when I tell people about this movie, I'm like, it was really funny. Not so much the closing moments of this movie, but the rest of it was really good, and I wish I didn't have that. So I guess if I have a negative for this movie, it's just that I wish they had stopped at a certain point of this film instead of diving into a couple more jokes at the end, trying to get you, the viewer, to laugh a couple more times. But overall, even with that messier ending, I had a great time with this film. It's one that I would highly recommend to people, if for no other reason, just the way that they tell this story, the fresh concept of this story, and the way they're able to pour humor all over this film, and with 99% of it working for me, well, I would definitely recommend that to people. It's also a movie that I'm definitely going to put on those shelves back there as soon as it releases. It's a movie I want to show people down in my movie room. Like, it was just a great movie, and one that is one of my favorite films of 2026 so far. But as always, guys, those are just my opinions, because that's my review for Over Your Dead Body. Have you guys had a chance to see this film? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where we agree or disagree, what you liked about it, what you didn't like. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of my Over Your Dead Body review. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time watching this movie, had an even better time making this review. I love talking movies with you guys in the comment section, so don't forget to leave your comments down below. And we are coming up on the end of the month, so I will have my April ranked list pretty soon, my May upcoming list pretty soon. I'm looking forward to doing those videos, but until then, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got my best and worst of 2026 so far right there, and I've got all of my 2026 movie reviews right there.